the Joystick Show. You know, your three favorite friends from Hawaii, gathering in one place to talk story about the latest things we've read, watched, or played. We'll share our stick with you, so thanks for sticking around. If you fancy what you hear, please like and subscribe on the platform you frequent, because it helps us out super a lot. Huh? I'm your co-host Drake. That's Brother Thomas.
What up, what up?
And Uncle Scott.
Hold it.
Welcome back to the Joystick Show. I'm talking pidgin right now because we were just talking pidgin offline, so it carries over. Huh?
Bro, your pigeon was mean, but also sensual.
I know, super sensual, like ASMR pigeons, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like going 9-9 already.
Yeah, I feel like going 9-9, huh? You like hearing my voice, supple, huh? Supple like one pigeon.
It's like rainwater.
Like... so like rainwater, so to transition all the drops of rain turning into topics for this evening, huh? We're gonna talk about the new teaser trailer for Frasier, which was I believe a 90s sitcom.
Yeah, so I think it started in the 90s. Yeah.
We're gonna get into a little bit of the Rebel Moon trailer via Netflix. And we're going to do some reviews on the newest DC movie, A Blue Beetle. Tom Bob's going to get into At Home with the Furies. We can talk about Elemental and also, obviously, Ahsoka. Pilot episode, Season 1, Episode 1 just came out. But let's get into that Frasier teaser trailer. There wasn't a lot of action in that, but what did you guys think about that?
I think it was cool. It was done in a very Frasier-esque way. If you watch Frasier, the old show, they had like an outline of like Seattle that would come out and spell out Frasier with the needle and stuff, and they used that to outline Frasier, and they had him re-singing the intro to the original show, but like it's him now. You can tell it in his voice and whatnot. But yeah, I thought it was a cool nod to what you watched before, and hopefully that's just to tell you like we're gonna keep it the same, maybe. Whatever you loved before, we're gonna keep it going. I'm excited. I used to watch Frasier, so
yeah, Frasier good.
Yeah, I liked it.
Man, I tried to watch Frasier, but I felt too dumb. Like I felt like I didn't understand. I only understood his dad. Because his dad was like the normal guy. He didn't have like a massive vocabulary. Maybe now I can watch it. Probably not. But I mean, I was too stupid to watch it back then. I didn't get it. I wanted to like it, but I just feel like it didn't.
Yeah, it's like a high maka show to an extent. There's lots of like references that you're like, ooh, do I need to be like affluent to understand?
Do I need a dictionary to understand that joke?
Yeah, I think that's why it was funny, because like Frasier, I guess in the show, like he's making good money, and like he likes the finer things, and his brother was the same, and their mother raised him that way, but the dad was such like a dude, what the hell, like enjoy yourself, like stop being so stuck up. And most of the people around them in the show were like that, and it's like he's always trying to like surround himself in like elegance, and then he's always like grounded by people like, you look dumb, like, so that's what kind of made it funny, like the dad's comments, or the dad's therapist's comments, or the other people at the radio station, or whatnot. There was a lot of real people around him and his like high pompous kind of lifestyle. Like that made it funny.
Right on. Okay. Yeah. Now I get it. Now I'm in on the joke. Can watch them.
Yeah.
Oh, every time, brother.
Stefani.
Yeah.
Okay, so that raises a question before we move on: is what sitcom would you want to see updated, elevated, continued that hasn't been done yet?
That hasn't been done yet.
Damn it.
I don't think you could do... I mean, I guess all the actors are alive. I don't know if you could do Seinfeld still. Like, I think they've all moved past that.
For sure.
You know, they're happy with it. So let me give you... let me think about more suggestions that we can't do. And I'll pass on to Scott in the meantime.
I don't know. I'm trying to think of all the sitcoms I watched before.
Ooh.
Do you
think they could do Third Rock from the Sun?
Oh shit! Yeah.
Did they bring that back at one point?
I think they did a reunion episode, but they didn't like bring it back.
Okay. Yeah,
Dude,
they could probably do that.
New Third Rock from the Sun.
Yeah.
That's what I want.
Okay, Third Rock from the Sun for sure. All I can think about is, I know it's not a series, but Imagine if they redid Brink.
Imagine it was a series.
Yeah,
They could.
Imagine if it was a series. If they did
Team
Brink as a
Suds.
series, fuck yeah.
Soul Skaters?
Soul Skaters for life, bro.
You said Brink?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. That's a good one.
That'd
I
be a
like
good
that.
one.
They could, because they did the Mighty Ducks TV show, and they brought
that's
back
true, yeah.
Coach. So they could bring back the dude who was in Brink, and he's now he's the dad of these Soul Skaters or something.
Oh, bring back all that.
Wow. That'd be crazy.
Just get Keenan from SNL.
I know, yeah.
Run it. He starts his own SNL.
Do? Bring back Good Burger. Oh wait, they are.
They are, yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't that trailer drop?
Shit, I can't think of
It did. I didn't really watch that whole thing. Wow. Talk about trailers. We did get another trailer for something we didn't all watch, which was Rebel Moon.
Rebel Moon.
What did you think about it, guys? Because Drake, you just watched it. How
I just watched it. The first 30 seconds, I was like, "Is this 300?" Because there's a field of wheat. There's a person touching said wheat, and then it gets into these wide shots where I'm feeling like, "Oh, is this like Dune?" And then all of a sudden, there's like griffins and mythical creatures, and I'm like, "Am I watching The Odyssey?" And then there's a lot.
Feel like you're watching a lot of different things.
Yeah, it's a lot of movies. And there's like a woman with spider legs, and I was like, "Whoa, is this James and the Giant Peach?" And so there's a lot of things I think that have been taken from.
Well, there's lightsabers.
Yeah, there's lightsabers. Right? There's bombs. There's high and tight haircuts. There's military.
And speaking of 300, there was a part in it where they totally did a Spartan kick.
Yeah.
So
really? What's his name? Jamon Hunsu or something?
Well, nailed it.
Yeah.
Or whatever. Yeah.
Why don't you try, Scott?
Or whatever. I'm afraid to say anyone's name now.
Yeah. It will be clipped and live on the internet for eternity. I think that's what it is. But he plays the wizard in Shazam, and also one of the Kree in Guardians of the Galaxy. That guy is amazing. What was the UFC movie he did, or like the MMA movie?
Never Back Down.
Oh yeah.
There you go. Yeah, which was the freaking name of the movie.
Yeah. Don't back down.
That's true. He's amazing. I love that dude. Anytime he's in it, he always brings it, and I always believe what he's doing. I hope he's a main character in Rebel Moon. Agreed. It's very Zach Snyder from what we've seen, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the visuals look amazing. All those things. It's like he has this little boy at heart that's really good at making visuals. Because you're saying all the things you listed, I'm like. It's like he just picked oh, that's cool too. Let's figure out a way. I hope. I was watching the trailer and I'm like, of course it looks beautiful. It's not even what I'm worried about. I just hope this all makes sense. I'm seeing all these different things. I'm seeing a griffin. Seeing a spider lady. I'm seeing lightsabers, and I'm like, it seems like a lot to fit into. And it is a part 1, it says, but Snyder, the script isn't always the strongest for his movies, and that's what I'm really worried about. But otherwise, it looks amazing. Yeah. I'm hoping it's not one big music video. Is what we were saying earlier, right?
Yeah. I mean, definitely, man. The score with the visuals, yes, it always makes a great music video. But you're right. He recently came online somewhere and said he would like to see the director's cut of Sucker Punch. I too would like to see it. I was not asking for his director's cut of the Justice League, but we got that anyway. And I just, to your point, hope it does make sense because he has some really great ideas. The fights are cool. The action's always great. But sometimes with his original stories, it doesn't always make sense to me. And I love Zack Snyder. I think he's an awesome person, along with director, along with a visionary. He has his own style. It's very Zack Snyder, and you got to appreciate that. But just I've heard that he's saying it's like Star Wars with sex and murder, and it's okay, that's a high bar because we got some good Star Wars this week.
There better be nudity then if he's trying to go for that.
Yes,
it could be
full frontal griffin nudity. So be ready for that.
What I want to see.
And Spider Lady.
And Spider Cooch.
No pants.
No pants,
but lots of silk thread.
Hey-o.
Hey.
So Rebel Moon To be determined. I really am hoping the best for it. It seems like Netflix is banking a lot on this movie. Already announcing a part 2, so I hope it does well. They have firepower in terms of acting. Charlie Hunnam's in it. You said Ray
Fisher's in it.
Ray Fisher, who gives a shit about Ray Fisher? Sorry, but like,
wow.
But hopefully especially for that, like, hopefully he does well in this movie and maybe he can get more work.
True.
I mean, I know he said he doesn't really care.
Everybody in the Justice League, like Warner Brothers. So, I mean, this is like his last shot for Hollywood, I would say.
Anthony Hopkins is the only other large name in here. Everybody else is kind of like
looks like he was narrating some of the trailer and stuff. So, but I mean, the cast is huge though. They got the villain from Ant-Man, Corey Stoll, Carrie Elwes, the Man in Tights. The Robin Hood Man in Tights.
Oh, okay.
That dude, he's in it. Oh, wow. There's like a lot of just like faces. You're like, oh, I've seen this dude. Oh, I've seen this lady. So.
Oh, this is it. Sophia Botella is like seems like she's the main girl in it. So, and she's been in some stuff too. So I think that's a strong person to base this franchise around. We will see.
Hopefully.
Hopefully.
And that'd be cool to get like an awesome epic, at home.
Yeah, definitely. Mm-hmm. All right, we're already into the review portion.
Wow.
And talking about a blockbuster film that may be at home very soon. It's probably not a blockbuster, but it was a big theater movie that doesn't seem to be performing. Its one claim to fame is that it dethroned Barbie as number 1, which Barbie will retake it back over this coming weekend, if I had to guess. But anyways, that's a long way of saying we are talking about Blue Beetle. Me and Scott were able to watch it.
Yep.
Yeah, I think my thoughts were kind of documented on the social medias. Scott, what did you think about this new DC movie?
The movie's a fun movie. Like, it's not super crazy amazing. But it is really fun. The CG and everything is great. There's no weird stuff going on like in Flash. That was sad. But the George Lopez actually thought was funnier than I thought he was going to be.
Yes.
Like, when I saw him in the trailer, I was like, it looks like they're making him kind of cheesy. Because I used to like the George Lopez show, so it's not like I don't think he's funny,
Yes.
But in the trailer, I was like, we'll see. But he had some like one-liners in there, and the way he plays his like crazy uncle, I'm like, like I was rooting for him. Yeah. Like I liked him.
Absolutely. So I'll jump in. I agree with you. I think it is a good movie. I still think it's worth seeing in theaters, but it's not gonna knock your socks off. Like, it's not gonna be like, this is the most groundbreaking movie I've ever seen. Like, it's not that, but it definitely deserved, I think, a theater release. It's too bad the cast couldn't promote it, like, especially for Zolo, right? I mean, it's Zolo's first standout in a movie, coming from Cobra Kai, where a lot of people still don't watch it, but that's a fun show. But that kid really stepped up. I was worried about him going from Cobra Kai to this because he's kind of cheesy in Cobra Kai. Some of his lines don't land. It makes me think now that the writing's not as tight as it should be, which shouldn't be a surprise to anybody, I guess. But in this, man, he has such good range. Like, he really does a good job as a leading man in this movie.
Wow.
Yeah. I enjoyed him as Blue Beetle in this. And it really did take on the new version of Blue Beetle that we've been seeing in like the comics and the animated
Justice
movies and
League,
stuff, like
or Young Justice. He was in there too. Yeah,
and they mentioned like the old Blue Beetle, which is great. So it's not like this is the only one that ever existed, kind of thing.
Yeah,
which is great. There was it was cool the way they did everything. I felt like there was stuff for like the hardcore nerds who like follow the comics and whatnot, and for people just picking up like what's Blue Beetle. You'd still have a good time watching this movie.
Yeah, definitely. Cool. Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of, for me, and I talked about this on the TikTok, there's so much like Latino or like Latin, Mexican, American influence in the movie. And I really liked that. I really appreciated it. It was like, getting a taste of that culture, of the family dynamic, just from the colors, the vibe of the family, how supportive they are, the language. I thought all of that was incorporated super, super well into the story. It was really, really interesting. And that's what it also makes me a little bit sad about how it's performing, because, you know, we're get our first Latino superhero, and we're not talking about Namor, who's a side supporting character / villain. Like this is his story. This is Jaime Reyes's personal story, and it's like, that's so cool, but it's not getting any love, and I feel sad because of the timing, I think, for me. But that element of the story I thought was great. What did you think about it?
Yeah, I think everything you were saying is really accurate.
Yeah,
it was just, I guess it was one of those.
It's not like you'd be like, no, that sucked, bro. Like,
yeah, no,
that's kind of a setup.
I mean, but it was well said. I do have to, if you've been listening in the past episodes, like anytime we talked about the trailer of the show, like, or this movie, I was really hesitant. I was like, it feels like, and I think it was sort of like the George Lopez thing, like, feels like it's going to be cheesy. Like, they're showing all the cool parts in the trailer. It just is not going to land. For me, it was better than the trailer.
Oh yeah, way better.
And then when you see reviews, it's easy to like, you're like, oh, it got like it got like a 70. You're like, oh, that's okay compared to like some of these other movies. You're like, oh, it's a 90. It's a must see, game changer. You know, right. Wakanda like, forever like type of thing.
Oppenheimer, Barbie.
Oppenheimer,
is, like,
yeah, that sort of stuff.
We're all like coming off of.
Right. But you go in the comments, this is like a strange thing. Like, you go in the comments of most movies, you'll see like a lot of negative along with the positive. But in this one, I saw like most positive. Like, everyone's like, wow, it surprised me. Like, it was actually good. I had fun. I don't know what this article was talking about. It was a good time. I took my family. It was great. Like, it was just a lot of positive views. And I'm like, that's cool. Like, it's kind of is a shame that it's not getting as much views in the theaters. It could be because they couldn't like go out and promote it. Maybe that was something.
I think that definitely is affecting it for sure. Yeah, it seems like the marketing budget, I think even the marketing that we got focused on the wrong things.
Yeah.
Like, it was focusing on like, look at this cool new hero, when it should have been focusing on the heritage of the hero and you know, the path that it's going to lead to the future. But also, like, this is stuff the cast might have talked about in interviews and then they couldn't. You know,
that's true.
Yeah, but I think the marketing focused on way the wrong things. Also, this back in the day was supposed to be a Max streaming exclusive. Well, they decided to pivot because they thought there was more juice there. They turned it into a movie, put more money into it, turned it into a movie. But then also in that same decision within that realm, that's where that Batgirl got canceled. So like this got elevated to full-blown movie, Batgirl got wiped away, and so this was kind of ebbing and flowing and changing. But man, it came together really well. On your point about George Lopez, like, again, if you like George Lopez, this is really going to work because he's pretty damn funny. If you hate George Lopez, I don't know if this works for you because he's very George Lopez. Although I think everybody kind of has that crazy family member or like, you know, uncle or whatever. But it's like he plays that role really well, like the conspiracy theory, you know, like all the birds are actually robots by the government. You know, don't step outside. I don't want to show my identity. He plays that role super, super well. And he goes from just comedy in the beginning to a lot of heart and kind of, you know, who sets Jaime on the path to like, this is what you got to do to be a hero. And there's some stakes in this movie that really got to me. I was like, damn, they're really going for it. This is a sad moment. I was really surprised by that.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. I recommend going out and checking it out.
For sure.
Well,
what do you think, Drake?
As a DC, or let's say there's a DC comic book fan, and they've watched the Blue Beetle in things like Justice League and the animated series, and they kind of seen that origin story, etc. Maybe they've read the comic books. In this particular movie, just like how The Flash kind of bringing everything together, aside from the fact of all the negative publicity it was getting, what would you hang your hat on is the best part of this rendition of Blue Beetle, whether it's the casting, the writing, the heritage, etc. What would you hang your hat on that differentiates this from other DC movies?
differentiate it from other DC movies? Okay, I can name 3.
Go for it.
Family dynamic, the genuine humor, and badass action that felt unique from DCU movies.
Oh.
So it felt like it's truly its own, and they used his abilities super well, and it feels like there's still so much room they could go. There's a very you could see this in the trailers, but he turns a suit, or he like makes a Buster sword, and the way he uses the Buster sword is sick.
He uses like Cloud does.
Yeah, like it's very video game-esque, but still feels like it could work in the real world, and that is badass. The humor, it like worked for me. It's cute, like it's definitely something you could bring your family to, but if you have experience with Latin culture or like Mexican American culture, like that humor is going to work for you. And then the family dynamic in that same vein is really going to work as well, because, you know, Drake, we're both married to Mexican women. Like understanding a little bit more of that culture, you get a taste of it. You get to, you know, the food, how people talk to each other. Yeah. You know, there's like a certain loudness and cadence, and not in a bad way.
Dynamic.
Yeah, but like just in a like a family dynamic way, and that's there, and it feels genuine, and I like that. And he's not ultimate. He's not Superman. He's not Batman. He's this kid who gets thrust into this world and has to figure this out. And some of it, he's royally messing up, and he's not in control. So you're just kind of watching this kid go along for a ride, trying to figure it out. And then his family gets thrown into the mix, and he has to do what he has to do because of it. But he's just not perfect. He's gets his ass kicked in this movie, and I did appreciate that, because on paper when you watch Blue Beetle, you're like, his powers are ultimate, but he doesn't feel ultimate. But as he gets mastery of the powers, he feels better and better. It's really cool. I think they did a fantastic job with that.
Are you getting like Peter Parker vibes from it in terms of like the youthness into the hero?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's definitely there, but it still feels unique because it's a whole new world. Like, it is a whole new world, like, literally. Yeah, just, I don't know what type of world dynamic I could talk about that would make it comparable, but I don't know. Scott, do you have a comparison to, like, his family structure, the dynamics, the vibe? Like I can't think of anything that's comparable to. I can't really think of another, like, what other hero has that much family he can go to? Like I can't really think of another hero that has like maybe
all his family who's in on it too. Like they all know he's Blue Beetle. That's another thing too. They're there when he gets it, when he transforms, and then he's like, oh, and he shoots out the roof. Like that's in the trailer where they're all looking up. Yeah. So like right then, like everyone knows his secret. His immediate family knows his secret, and I think that is different as well. Because every other dynamic, like I gotta keep this a secret. Like everyone's like worried about him and rooting for him at the same time, and he's trying to save his family, and they're all kind of involved in this thing. Yeah. So I think that's huge. That's different. Yeah, on the power side, it's cool because his suit is almost like Green Lantern in the sense where like it can do anything he imagines, but he's like Iron Man in the sense where it's because it's a suit, but it's like symbiotic. So it's not like he can like make a giant thing and keep people trapped in it, but he can also like shoot out. There's a part in the movie where like he shoots out like these energy holding things and like kind of holds people to the wall or something. Yeah. So like, but then he can do cool shit like that, and then they disappear after a while.
The suit. Yeah. It's cool. Like you're right. Like it definitely leads the door open to Green Lantern, and there is a Green Lantern Easter egg right at the beginning of the movie, which was like, oh shit, that's sick. I think this is a great character. I really want people to support the movie and like go to the movie theater. I know we're not supposed to promote movie theaters, but like I think this kid deserves it. I think the cast deserves it. Even the chick who plays Jenny Cord, she's awesome too. I'm like, who is she? One, she's super hot. Two, like she's a tremendous actress, and like she just kind of came out of nowhere. So a lot of the leads are they're not like A-list stars, but I think that's why it's more believable. Yeah, maybe he has like this Miles Morales type of situation, but again, to Scott's point, the family knows. Not like Miles' family who doesn't know.
Yeah. Yeah, so he has the support of his family. The other thing that's funny is he like a symbiote, like he has this thing in him that's talking to him, and there's times where he's like, "Shut up," and no one else can hear it. So that's what's funny, because in the Young Justice cartoon and stuff, that's kind of the thing that's like that's part of the comedy of his character. Like he's chilling with them, and he's like, "No, I'm not going to do that." And they're like, "Are you okay?" And he's like, "No, I'm good." Like he's like still learning his powers and whatnot, and they capture all that really well too.
Yeah.
So yeah,
absolutely.
I think it's cool.
It's cool.
It's good for all ages.
Yep.
Yeah. Check it out for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. If I had to rate it, it's like, I'm going to say, just because I want people to see it, like 8 out of 10. Like I'm going to rate it, realistically, it's probably like a 7.5, but like for me, I'm going to say 8 because I really enjoyed it.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. It's a good time.
Yeah. Good time. So the next bit, talking about families, we got a new show on Netflix. It's a documentary, and it follows the Furies and the Gypsy King. It's called At Home with the Furies, and it follows Tyson Fury, Tommy Fury, and their dad. I want to say it's Tony. I might be wrong.
Hey, Tony.
Papa Fury?
Yeah, Papa Fury. But literally, they're gypsies. I mean, that's how he was raised, and as Tyson and Tommy, they live this nomadic lifestyle, but also with that interesting kind of upbringing, Tyson becomes the undefeated heavyweight champion of the world, is one of the best boxers of all time, and is probably one of the most famous and richest people in the UK, but lives in this tiny little beach town called Morecambe with his gypsy family, 6 boys and 6 girls. So it's reality TV, but I've got sucked into it. He is an interesting guy. Before I even knew him as a boxer, I saw him go on a podcast and talk about his struggles with mental health, his bipolar, his depression, his drug and alcohol abuse. And it's really interesting to see him at home as this family guy when I've also seen him talk about that stuff and then also beat the living crap out of people in a boxing ring. So it's good. I do recommend that one as well. It's on Netflix. And if any of you are Love Island fans, his brother Tommy Fury, who was in Love Island and should have won, I think, season 6, he's in there with his girlfriend from Love Island. And if you've been following the news, this shouldn't be a spoiler, but she's actually pregnant. And so this Love Island couple really is working, and you get to follow them more post Love Island. So great. It's a fun show. Yeah, I'm really liking it. I'm only like 3 episodes in.
Nice. How much episodes are there?
Should have looked that up.
So let's see. What would you say separates this from something like as popular as like the Kardashians or Jersey Shore? What brings it home and makes it special, not just for you, but for other people who enjoy reality shows?
Good question. I think he's from the UK, so they have their own little accent and sayings. I'm like an automatic sucker for that.
Yeah.
They throw in like a British accent, like, and just I don't know, it just does that type of dialogue. Like I'm on board with it. I said a dialogue like it's coming from a script, but this is literally just people talking to their family.
Yeah.
But yeah, that part of it's good, and also like he really is trying to be a good family man. He also is struggling with the fact that he's supposed to be retired and he wants to retire, but at the same time, it's what saves him from his mental health. So like they talk constantly about the last time Tyson retired, he fell into a super dark place. Like he started drinking too much. He did a bunch of drugs. He gained a bunch of weight. He was super depressed. And so it's like, how does a guy who is aging out of a sport then retire when the sport was what was keeping him mentally together? And so there's that aspect, but like the surrounding family is great too, and his kids, like the wife is trying to keep them as normal as possible. And then also, if you know nothing about gypsy culture, which I don't know a lot, I do know that there's a big gypsy population, I think in Virginia, but it is I'm just gonna say, like, to me it's pretty wild. Like they do everything over the top, and it's almost like quinceañeras for every birthday party, and they overdo the makeup and the dresses, and like they live this over the top lifestyle. But then you expand that to this super wealthy guy, and then it's just everything's over the top. Plus,
it can go big all the time.
Yeah, exactly. And so I mean, he's larger than life himself. He's a character. Some of the things he says is just like, damn, yeah, he deserved to have his own reality TV show. But man, yeah, it's really fascinating following him and the whole family and how it all works.
Oh,
nice.
That sounds pretty cool.
Yeah.
And we can watch it on Netflix.
And you can see it on Netflix. In the midst of that, I didn't look up how many episodes, but I'm sure it's a good amount of episodes. I would say 6 or more. I don't know.
At least 2.
Yeah. So, check it out. Let us know what you think.
Do it.
The next thing is we're going into a Pixar movie. I should say it's more of our Disney segment because we're going from Disney to Disney. But it's a movie that I talked about, I want to say like maybe last month or something like that. But it's been it kind of kept up momentum in theaters, which is surprising because normally movies kind of drop off. But this thing has been keeping pace. And I think it was projected to lose a bunch of money. Now it's projected to make some money. And it is one of Pixar's newest, called Elemental. You just watched it, Scott. What do you think about Elemental?
Yeah, Elemental... This was one, like, I'm like, I usually always look forward to Pixar movies. This one, it looked cool. I was like, maybe I can wait till it comes out digitally. So I did. It's available to rent now. Went ahead, checked it out. It was better than I thought it was going to be. I was reading like some, I don't know why, you can never trust reviews, but for whatever reason you read them and you're like, oh, I'm going to let this kind of cloud my judgment for a bit. And it kind of did. Like there's people like, I don't know about this movie, woke this, woke that, or whatever. But I watched it, and I enjoyed it. It touches on, I guess it's like a real-life scenario in this like make-believe world. Like Ember is the fire character, and her family comes from like what it seems like an Asian descent, like maybe Chinese or something. They show in the beginning that like her parents came from like Fireland, settled in where they are, and then this was their first child born there, like in like I guess would be like America or whatnot.
Yeah,
whatever
like,
big
almost
city.
like an ABC.
Yeah, and they're living in the fire town of like this place, and the world or the place they're living in is like kind of catered a lot to like water people. Just like the way the tracks run, there's like water going, and there's things throughout that like touch on like racism in the sense in this world, like where it's there's a part where she wants to see this thing as a kid, and like because she's a fire type, there's like danger of maybe them burning something, so they're like no fires allowed, and this is something she experienced growing up. So like there's these touches on things that I guess everyone can relate to, like there's like racism that we deal with,
whether it's like on purpose or like it just that's how it's set up. Like the system is set up this way, and it's like unknowingly racist, right? Like it's like you were saying, like she's a fire person, and like it's a full water track. Like how does she ride that train without like possibly getting washed out? So it's it's
like you get on the train, but like, underneath is water. And like when it goes by, it splashes water. So like they always got umbrellas to make sure they don't get hit by it, and to think like if you were a fire person, like death could just be raining on you at all times. Like that's kind of terrifying. But the way they set it up is cool. Like she meets like this character, Wade, who ends up being like an inspector, and like, because of like events ends up in her shop. Yeah. And he like feels sorry for everyone.
Right. Like he's not like a police inspector. He's like a check the meters inspector.
Just like a city inspector. Yeah. And he just so happens in her shop, and he's like, oh my God, there's like so many things I got to write citations for here. I don't want to do it.
Yeah. He's definitely a non-traditional male character.
Yeah. And in the beginning, I hate this guy because he's like, I got to turn it in. And she's like, dude, like, if you turn this in, they're going to close down my shop. And he's like, I got to do it. I'm sorry. Mm-hmm. And it turns to this chase scene. And I'm like, what a piece of shit. Like, fuck this guy. And then, but of course, they needed something to turn into like the movie being about how to fix this situation. And he ends up on her side. And then you end up like really liking these two characters together. You get to meet both of their families and how like their parents see their other friend or whatnot, and it's a cool movie. Like and they make they do some really cool things with the characters they have. Like there's a part in it where she makes like an air balloon real quick because she's like a fire type person. So they stand on a thing, she puts a big cloth over, and she heats up, and they start flying. Like a lot of really creative things that you could only do in this type of world.
She can like weld metal using her heat.
Yeah,
she can blow glass.
Yeah, and they touch on that. It's like there's that aspect of she's expected to take over the family's business, but she's actually really talented at like blowing glass, and she just sees it as it's just a thing I do. And they're like, they touch on in the movie like people appreciating art, and they're like, you have like a really good talent here. You should do something with it. But she's torn between like having to take over her family business and what her family might think of her and all that stuff. But yeah, overall, really good movie and a lot more feels than I thought it was gonna have. Like, it was good.
Yeah. It was really good. It had the amount of feels that I thought it would have. I mean, Pixar does a good job of just like making you feel something from a damn cartoon. Mm-hmm. And I love the world that they created because it was so creative and unique. It was like, okay, you got your 4 elements, right? We got wind, water, earth, blah, 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 right? Mm-hmm. And it just... yeah, it worked really well, and that relationship really does grow on you, and you end up rooting for them. Like, you really do. Yeah. You're like, oh, okay, yeah, I want this to work. And, I think that the symbolism was subdued. It wasn't, like, in your face, like, this. Like, if people are shouting woke, it's because they were looking for something to be mad about. For sure. It wasn't, like, that's there in the story for sure. That's a point of it, but it's not the main point. The main point is like to accept people, even if it seems like you come from different worlds. And and so to your point, I think that is what people should take away from it. It's like, just give somebody a chance, and, it may surprise you. They may be the next best person in your life because you gave them the opportunity. And I loved it. I thought this was really, really well done. Again, didn't set the world on fire. No pun intended for the fire people, but it's like, it was really sweet. It was cute. It had some funniness in it. It just was a really unique world. The thing for me I find interesting is like, this movie Elemental didn't do that well right off the bat. But then you get an Across the Spider-Verse that's doing really well. I think TMNT is not doing bad. So it's like, I wonder if people are moving away from that type of animation and more towards what we're seeing in Across the Spider-Verse. What do you guys think?
I mean, potentially, I think there's a lot of in between. I think a Pixar movie is going to be a Pixar movie based on the fact of how they do their illustrations and their animations. And especially when it comes to something... Pixar in itself has always been very good at thought-provoking things through the lens of these, I don't want to say symbolic characters, but characters into which you can relate to on not only an adult level, but also as a youth. And with animation like TMNT, it may be more visually attractive, and it may be able to relate to maybe more youthful individuals or individuals that are fans of, but I don't know that the art style in itself, to a degree, lends itself to the already established relationship we have with Pixar based on the consistency into which they've done their illustrations. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Also, this movie is like a property that is you just found out about maybe a year ago, and then you're seeing the movie, versus like Ninja Turtles and Spider-Man is something you are familiar with and usually has a good track record. And especially Into the Spider-Verse 2, if you already liked the first one, you're watching the second one. And then TMNT, like, if you're either fans like us who like grew up with it, or you're like little kids who just like action things, like you're gonna like this movie. Like, and you've heard of Ninja Turtles. what this movie Elemental has is like mainly the Pixar name and Disney.
True.
And I think with the, I don't know, like it's unfortunate how much the internet has, like how much of a push it has in some ways on like parents, I guess, because it seems like all you need is one comment going like, they're trying to make our kids gay or something ridiculous like that, and then they're like, oh well, best to just stay away from this for now, maybe catch it when it streams, or
Right.
like it's like less enticing to go and watch it in theaters or what have you. But yeah, I mean, I enjoy Pixar, and I didn't think, and there was nothing in this movie that's pushing anything down your throat. So like, relax, internet. It was a cool movie. They did a lot of cool stuff. It was really creative. Check it out. It's good.
I think us growing up in Hawaii, where it's just culturally diverse and much different than kind of the polarity of the mainland, how the mainland can be. A lot of like all of those things we like grew up with. Everybody's a different ethnicity, and so to differentiate yourself, you have to kind of like, oh, how do I get along with this person? Oh, well, they happen to be a certain ethnicity, and what I know about this, and what can I learn, and what do I already know, and how can that blend and mesh, and also taking into account like the individuality of that, but also being the group that is Hawaii. Because wherever we go, when we meet other Hawaii people, we automatically feel that connection with multiple different ethnicities versus like if you're Mexican from Mexico and you meet other Mexicans who speak Spanish as well too, that's that connection. So I think there is some sort of like tribalism to a degree, especially with these movies coming out that are giving us thought-provoking things amidst all of the I guess like the culture wars that are happening within the US. But I think Joe Rogan, how he talked about Barbie, it's like it's a movie. So to take something out of context that's supposed to be entertainment and supposed to be thought-provoking, and to make it something that's like a political stance or this, that, and the other, like unless it is supposed to be that, you're just making an assumption. And the outrage of all of that stuff, I think, adds to the strike. It adds in terms of the writer's strike and all of that jazz, the acting Screen Actors Guild, because how then can you make a movie if one comment on the internet is going to ruin the whole thing? So I think there's a lot of interconnection with that and entertainment.
Like, you mean that people are trying to push an agenda, or they're not, or they're just trying to tell a good story? Like,
for example, if you're writing a story or acting, aside from the fact of they're not getting paid or the bad treatment, it's your artistic values then start to not depreciate but become secondary towards what the public is narrating.
Yeah, so like public opinion, you're saying, is more important than what these people are trying to create?
Or the public opinion is now hindering these artists to be able to create their art.
Yeah.
Because there's so much boundaries.
I would agree with you on that. Yeah, it definitely feels like, because I mean, a case in point, Blue Beetle. Like, why? Because people think it's not gonna be a part of the new DCU, or is it?
Just
I don't know
stuff.
if it's like a heritage thing or tied to like a culture or ethnicity. I don't know, but yeah, it's been a really interesting year in terms of like what does well and what doesn't. Like, I'm going to bring this up. I don't think The Flash was that bad of a movie, but I think for a lot of people, they couldn't get out of their mind that Ezra Miller was the lead. They were like, nope. Yeah. They're like, nope, Ezra Miller, not doing it. And I felt that way for a long time too, so I understand it. But it's funny how that narrative is like the only thing people will focus on, and the internet is notorious for that, because you get whatever it is, like 200 characters for a comment, and then you write your whole comment, and then that's it, or you get your 2 lines because people aren't going to read it. But I appreciate you bringing this up, because I think our world is way more complex than 2 lines to describe a movie or a show or an episode that doesn't encapsulate everything. And that's why I'm happy we get to do this and jump on a podcast and talk about it, because listen, like we've already talked about, Blue Beetle, not the best movie in the world, but it's still worth seeing. And Elemental may not be the best movie in the world, but like, yeah, if you have kids and you want to entertain them and you want to see something unique, then fucking show them Elemental because it's perfect. But there's just, don't limit yourselves too much because of a few things you read. And I think, and hopefully I think this podcast allows people to open their mind a little bit. Drake.
The contradiction is just interesting because we live in a world now that preaches acceptance and nuance and individualism, and yet to not be able to take art at face value, right? To be like, oh, this is nuanced and I accept it for what it is and not necessarily add more to it than, it's interpretation is obviously going to be different per person, but like this person's creating art regardless of how you quote unquote feel about it. Should you be polarized about it to be like, oh, it's super bad or it's super good based on whatever is popular in the culture right now? Like, again,
it's
there's
sexist,
nuance.
it's racist,
it's just too much.
It can
just
be. I think it can be sometimes, for sure. It can be. But yeah, I want to encourage this as much as possible. Like, if something's good, go in with your own mind, your own thoughts, and really judge it for that. Don't read a couple things online from one person you kind of like his views and then take that verbatim. Like, that's just, it's silly. It's small-minded. But if you do that, I mean, I can't blame you. It's up to you. But at the same time, like, give things a shot and try to see things from outside your bubble. I think it's super important. It's something that I think I'm always going to try to do. And I think it's something that movies, shows, comic books, they allow you to do that. They allow you to walk in someone else's shoes and see things from a different perspective, which if you have any type of strong self-constitution will not diminish who you are in your mind. Like, it's okay to see things from a new perspective. Shout out to Panic at the Disco. But I mean, like, I don't know. I truly believe that. I think that is something that should be embraced, and hopefully we can. One thing that I don't think is going to be controversial by many, because I really dug it, and I hope you guys did too, was we got the new Ahsoka show. Yes. Ahsoka. Yeah. All right. We got into it. It's pretty much Rebels 2.0.
2.0, yeah.
Okay, so you guys watched the cartoons though, right?
Yep. Yes.
Okay, so I didn't.
Idiot.
I kind of I maybe watched the first episode, and it's definitely one that I'm kicking myself in the butt now.
Yep.
So I've heard of certain characters that they're talking about on the show. We'll get into it, but I didn't get to fully enjoy the weight of these characters when these names are thrown around. I know they cast a big wake, but I'm like, oh, part of me wants to stop time and go watch all of Rebels before episode 3. But even with that to say, I was like, okay, well, I get an opportunity now to watch this show from the perspective of not watching the cartoons and seeing if I can still enjoy it.
Yeah.
And I did. I really did. I feel like they did a good job of nodding to the cartoon. They even show them, their cartoon versions on the wall at one point. And they mention certain characters in a way where you're you get enough of it to know what's going on, or you're no, they're going to touch on it more later or whatnot. And I was never really confused at all.
Oh, that's good.
So that was cool. And then, of course, I enjoyed the shit out of these first 2 episodes. So good.
Yeah.
So fucking good.
Right on. That's super good to hear, because I had the same question with Christina. And you guys know, it's super hard for me to get her to watch anything with me. And we put on this first episode, and she was hooked. I was like, I wanted to be that annoying guy. I was like, well, let me explain to you who Ezra Bridger is, or let me tell you about Sabine, let's pause and let me take you down this detour. But I didn't. I was like, all right, let me just let her watch it. She's into it. And if she has questions, we'll act accordingly. But she didn't have many questions. She might've been like, well, why does Sabine do this? Or, why did where is Ezra? And simple questions. And I was like, oh, okay, well, this is what happened. But she seemed to understand a lot of it too. So I think that's already a win, especially when you don't know a lot of, this is again, based off of Rebels, it seems like, but if you don't watch Rebels, it still seems like it works. This is something I think the MCU needs to take note of. But anyways, before we go to that, Drake, what were your thoughts?
I really enjoyed the Ahsoka show. We already talked about the cast. Cast is stellar, obviously. You got a super strong female-fronted cast that are giving us a lot of great Rebels kind of callbacks, and also kind of the evolution, just like how we've seen anime, and then the next season everybody's kind of grown up and they have a little bit more to offer. Things that I for sure dug just from episode 1 is the samurai western vibes that we've talked about before. Especially that there's a scene into which Ahsoka kind of has to battle some of these droids, and it's very thoughtful, and it's not overtly done where there needs to be a lot of CG or effects to make Ahsoka seem agile and like a Jedi, right? Even though she's aged substantially since the last we've seen her in Rebels. The way that the first episode set up the plot, we know exactly what's going on, right? You have the group of rebels, you have the group of the other individuals. They're trying to find Thrawn, and then that's kind of what's moving everything forward. Things happen, things ensue.
Right, like, but it's a simple goal. Like we gotta get to Thrawn first.
So now that we know that, all the other stuff that surround it, much like how the first season of The Mandalorian did, is now we can kind of see like the world building that they've created, which is super awesome. And one thing that I really enjoyed about episode 1 was like the editing and the blocking and the direction of everything. It was so intentional. One of my favorite scenes, and this is kind of small in comparison to like all of the other fight scenes, was when Ahsoka met Sabine again, and they walked into the ship. And Ahsoka is walking kind of in the back frame, stage right, or stage left, I should say. Mm-hmm. Goes into that room, and the door closes. And then now Sabine has like this... Our focus is on Sabine, and she's now reacting to the ship that she used to grow up on with Ezra, and is thinking and contemplating about what it's going to be like to be back in this environment when she was Ahsoka's Padawan. Right, and just that closing of the door, much like how when she dropped down in her house and you could see all the Mandalorian armor kind of tucked underneath, all of those kind of subtle cues of what was is no longer, and having to kind of get back into that was like very beautifully done. So awesome to the director in that situation.
Yeah, which was Dave Filoni.
Yeah,
he
Dave
wrote and directed
direct everything, Dave.
Yeah, which he will direct a movie coming up. But you're so right about that. Obviously, the action in it was incredible. You're so right. Like it was done very smart. Like it was almost practical. 5 droids surround her, and then they basically cut holes and eliminate a few of them so she can take down the rest. So it's easier. There's less of like, it's not 5-on-1, it's 3-on-1 or 2-on-1. So smart. But there's a scene in this, and some people said this episode was slow. I didn't find that at all. I found there was nuggets of information in every scene that made it interesting. But one in particular that was slow, but I loved, was when when Sabine got the star map and she goes back to the observation tower and she's looking at the hologram map. And she's like, okay, eliminate the faces, like turn this, do this. And then the light bulb goes off and she's like, oh, I get it. I have to like do this and turn the key a little bit. And you can see they just allow Sabine to really, what's her name? Natasha Leo Bordoza.
Yep.
Bordizo. She's sick. Like good. Dream crush, new internet crush for sure. Yep. But then she like is really good, and I haven't seen her in too much before this, but she gets to act, and I dig this choice because that scene kind of sold it for me.
Yeah, I agree. I like them being able to have the characters sit in the scene, and like it like draws you in. At least for me, like it draws me in, and then lets me like be there with the characters. There were parts of this that kind of reminded me of like it was shot like an A24 film. Yeah. Like where it's like not much music going on. You're like you have time to even watch the wind blow and see things move. Like when the droids show up, it was cool like how like they stood there, but they were it was kind of creepy like, and then their capes are kind of blowing. It gives you a beat to like really take in like, okay, how are we gonna do this?
Right. Yeah, how she gonna
even
get
to the
out
point
of
where
this
like
situation?
how she does her. Like, it was so cool, even just, I mean, we watched in the trailers, but how she shoots her lightsaber to the ground and then, like, aggressively, like, rotates it around, like, shoot, like, everything was just, like, no wasted time. Not like the movies were like, we gotta slowly break this.
Like Phantom Menace.
Yeah, or maybe that door was way stronger. I don't know, but still, like the way everything was just like done so purposely and like just everyone was. Yeah, I don't know. It was so cool. Even like the fight scene with the droid, up in the rooftop. She takes one out, and then when Ahsoka comes back, and then is waiting, and then it tries to come from the top, and she's like, "I knew you're there." Like she's just so badass the way they make her, and like the way. I don't know. It's like they put extra love into the CG too, where it looked like realistic. Yeah, it was just shot so good. Even the scenes with what's his name, Balin, and
So we gotta talk about Balin's skull and Shin Hati. Yeah,
yeah. Well. Like I mean, even just like them, it seems like even the tinge of the tint on the film is just a little different too. It's a little darker, like
Yeah, they're putting almost like a filter over the film in their scenes, so it feels a little bit more like ominous and mysterious and grittier.
Dark Jedi.
Yeah,
it's cool.
It is really cool. You talked about great scenes. I love one in particular. So when Shin Hati is told to go after Sabine Wren, there's a part where a droid, like an orb droid, flies back to her. And it reminds me so much of the scene of Darth Maul where that same orb came in, and I was like, damn, that's just good. It's like calling back on things we know as Star Wars fans. And I think that's the thing. This is tying into something new, but still feels so original. Like it still feels like the classics. And only Dave Filoni, I think, could do that because he's somebody who's sat down and talked with George Lucas and studied every little detail of the film, but then was like, I have new stories to tell and new characters. So man, he was the right choice to do this. It's so exciting. What do we think, what do we think about Shin Hati and Balin Skull and the late great Ray Stevenson? Because one, I think he was amazing, and two, it's just so sad that I don't know what happens to his character in the season, but if he's supposed to be alive at the end of the season, it really makes me sad that we're not getting him back for season 2.
Yeah. They really brought a presence to so in the scene into which they board the ship and they're masquerading as Jedi, OG Jedi, and then there's questioning from the captain of said ship. That's when you kind of get that really big shift, but a shift into which you felt the inertia of, right? You know they're not good guys. You know they're Jedis. We've never really seen quote-unquote dark Jedis in the IP as much as, for example, like the Inquisitors. They're not necessarily dark Jedis as much as they are Inquisitors because they don't have that Jedi background as strong as Ray Stevenson and Ivana Sanko. So to have them kind of automatically have that Jedi kind of mentality, but use it for their own avarice, essentially, like an orange lantern ring. To see that kind of like shifted, I don't know that you could have found actors that are better at it. I think the looks that they have, the voice, how they carry, how they work well together, I think all of those things casting wise and writing wise kind of sold it for me, especially like Ivana's like angular face. It just seems more menacing. It's a good face, but
she's good. Yeah, she definitely to me too feels more evil than he does. Like he feels like he is a fallen Jedi where he believed in the Order, he was a good Jedi, Order 66 happened.
She's like
and
malice.
And he found this girl who has powers and he's like, you're going to be my Padawan. But it feels like she's willing to go more dark than he is. And it doesn't feel like they're Sith. We know they're not Jedi. So what are they? Like, are they dark Jedi? Are there something that we haven't heard of yet? That, maybe some of the remaining Jedi or Force users in the galaxy turned to this other faction when, the Jedi were slaughtered. I don't know, but it's cool. Like it feels like they just feel unique. And
like it feels like he truly believes the side he's on is the side maybe that's gonna win or whatnot. It's like the smarter, more calculated side, whereas she's like maybe more Sith, like where it's like I'm gonna kill you one day and like become, the leader. Like I'm gonna, but because there's that part too where they or is it when they order him to go and kill Ahsoka, right? And he's like, "Oh, it's gonna be a shame to like, kill another Jedi or whatnot." And she's like, "Oh, like basically like, oh, is that weakness?" And he's like, "It's just the truth."
Yeah.
Like he really genuinely feels like, "Fuck, there's not a lot of us out there. Like I really wish I didn't have to put anyone else out." Like,
yeah,
but he's like, "I'm gonna still do what I'm gonna do."
Yeah, because she's in the way.
The sides are like switched now. Like with the Rebel Alliance, they had nothing to lose and everything to gain, right? And now after this situation, it's the opposite, right? Finding Thrawn is like the last haymaker that this group could possibly make to bring back, the Imperial forces, and they have literally nothing to lose, right? Because the Rebel Alliance is already kind of prevalent, and the New Republic and bloody bloop bloop.
They beat the Empire. Darth Vader's now dead. There's nothing for, I guess, this evil faction to lose, which is what you're saying, right? Like they can go and do anything. And Thrawn was literally the heir to the Empire. So if they find him, you got this whole new force that can come in. And I said this on the other podcast, but it's like, it's this sweet spot in the timeline of Star Wars where it's right at the end of Return of the Jedi, but it's before The Force Awakens. And that spot has been kind of untapped, but yeah, it's the perfect place for a Thrawn-like entity to come in and just try to rule. It's cool. Yeah. Like, oh man, they found this really great spot.
I hope in the upcoming episodes, I mean, obviously we want to get a little bit more unfurling of the plot and seeing where it goes. I think with our expectations, or at least my expectations, they need to find Thrawn. There needs to be a conclusion with Ahsoka and like her Jedi-ness, because she's always been teetering on like, what should I do? My master is now Darth Vader. I don't want to be a part of the Jedi at the same time I am a Jedi. Much like on the opposite way with Ray Stevenson's character and Ivana's character, where they accept the fact that they're Jedis and they want to do what they want to do with their Jedi powers. Ahsoka is still struggling between actually being on like the Jedi-ness, the good portion of it, and figuring out herself.
Yeah, she hasn't called herself a Jedi in decades at this point. Yeah. Right? Like she had the opportunity to come back to the Jedi Order. She said, "No, I'm not a Jedi," which is even more confusing because in the Mandalorian, he calls her a Jedi. She helps Luke, but she's not a Jedi. So the whole title is very interesting. What I'm liking, though, in these first two episodes, and I think what she's going to have to come to grips with, is the idea of master and apprentice. Like she was an apprentice for so long to Anakin. And I can't take credit for this. Frank said it, but it's like she wanted to... she thinks maybe that if she had stuck around, she might have been able to save Anakin from falling to the dark side.
I don't know about that, but yeah.
Yeah, but she also walked away from Sabine, and where would Sabine have been if she had stayed with her and said, "Hey, you can be my Padawan. I'll be your master. I'll make you as good as I can possibly make you." The other thing to that too is like, were you guys surprised? Well, probably not Scott, but were you surprised that Sabine was Ahsoka's Padawan? And then does that mean Sabine has the Force? Because they hint at it at Rebels. They never show us she's got the Force. So it's like, this is a crazy...
There's been only one other Force user that has been a Mandalorian. That's Tar Vizsla from Clan Vizsla. And
possibly Grogu.
But in terms of just like being a Mandalorian from Mandalore, if they're going in this direction, because obviously it's going to be tough to bring back Tar Vizsla, because who doesn't want to see the Mandalorian be a Jedi? So I think this is kind of like their shift, because traditionally the Mandalorians don't necessarily approve of the ways of the Jedi, because they think that their power in themselves should supersede using the mythical Force.
That, and also like they always believe they're stronger together, where Jedi believe they're stronger solo. Without attachment. Yeah.
So in that idea of Master Padawan getting through that trauma with Ahsoka and finding Thrawn, it seems as if too Sabine has to have an arc into which concludes to fulfill her quote unquote destiny, whereas she's kind of the main focus of Ezra Bridger. And if we're not seeing Ezra Bridger, or unless they're going to find them, Sabine is carrying that Ezra Bridger-like character where we're following her arc to become the person she needs to be, following her feet. So hopefully that is the case, because it would be sick to see a Mandalorian with Force abilities.
Yeah. I was in this show, I thought maybe the part where they were showing something like that would be when she doubled down on her speeder and then like cut it off at the last minute, slid under the thing. Like to me, that was like, oh, okay, that was like her unknowingly kind of knowing she could do crazy fucking shit like that. Maybe she sees it a little different in her head, and it's normal. What the
Force allows you to do crazy fucking
crazy shit. And then maybe like, so if I think of it as, this is like my anime brain now. If I think of it like in like One Piece sense, there's people with powers and there's people without powers. There's people who master powers. There's people who master like it in a different way, like technique, skills, but without powers. Yeah. So
like Zoro.
Maybe she's gonna bring like her Mandalorian-esque thing, master the Jedi way with technique. Maybe she has the slightest bit of like intuition, but maybe not as strong as other Jedis you've seen. But she's more so gonna be like a technique-based Jedi or something, which would be cool too.
I completely agree, because I was saying if she does have the Force, I don't see her doing like Force pulling and Force pushing. It's more of like a Spidey sense where she like knows something that's going on, or she can feel there's like a disturbance or there's danger or something like, or someone's around. I think you're right. I could see it going that direction. And I like it. It's cool that they gave her the lightsaber at the end of episode 1. Yeah. And she actually like gets to use it. It's not like a Finn thing where Finn kind of barely gets to use it and gets his ass kicked. Like she kind of holds her own. And I appreciated that because she's trained with the Darksaber. Like she's had lightsaber Jedi training from Kanan from Rebels. So like Sabine is a badass character already. The one criticism I've heard, and I can kind of see where it's coming from, is that this feels more of a Sabine show than an Ahsoka show. But I think it's that we have to set up the apprentice to understand the master.
It's the first episode. First 2 episodes, like relax.
Yeah. And then we get more Ahsoka in episode 2. Yeah. We get to see more of Hera as well and her piloting skills, which she's a badass pilot. I really dig this season already, and the goals are clear. The characters are clear yet have some mystery, and it's just like a really great place, I feel, for Star Wars. Man, this is what I've been waiting for. I feel like even Andor, as great as that was, is still different. Like I almost put that in a different category than this. Like Ahsoka kind of falls into the Obi-Wan Mandalorian category for me, but it's doing it the best.
But with like Andor seriousness,
for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Like it feels like the show takes itself serious. Mm-hmm. Like even you said, like taking a moment to take in all the little nuances and whatnot, the way it's shot. Just the quality overall feels like Andor, but then you're getting all the cool Mandalorian Jedi stuff that you wanted to see. Yeah. So it's like, this is great. Yeah. It's like, that's the moment I'm like, it's like A24 Star Wars. Like, just like a serious.
Which kind of was Andor. So like, I'm all for it. Like, give me Andor all day. That show was fantastic. But last thing I want to end on is just a couple lightsaber fights. One where she's fighting the Inquisitor. Oh, do you guys have any thoughts on who the Inquisitor could be? And then we'll get into the fights. Any guesses?
I would assume the main bald one. What was his name?
That was the Grand Inquisitor, but I think he died in Obi-Wan Kenobi.
I think Darth Maul's it. Comes back with android arms.
Okay. That's a fair guess.
Because he's the strongest one, that's why. So why would you bring back a non-strong Inquisitor?
Unless it's I think there's 2 things it could be. It could be one of the Inquisitors that attacked Ezra and Darth Maul in the Sith temple. There was one guy that they attacked and then he got kind of beaten. He just like flew away. I think it could be him because I don't remember what happens to that guy. Or 2, I'm kind of leaning towards what Frank said, which is he thinks it could be Cal Kestis from the video games. And that's not going to make a lot of sense to you if you haven't played the video or you haven't beaten the video games, but it's an interesting theory. Mm. And the more evidence he brought, the more I was like, I could kind of see that working if he's a double agent. So I don't know. I hope so. I don't know if I hope so, but I hope whoever it is, it's worth the unmasking, because to stay masked through 2 episodes, we have 6 left. That's not a lot. Man, you better show us. You gotta show us.
I'm gonna go ahead and say I hope so, because that'd be a cool way to freaking crossover from video game to live action.
Yeah,
I'll be about it. Even though I haven't played the games, I'll let them explain it to me. I'll be down.
Yeah,
that'd be cool.
The actor said he wants to do it. People at Star Wars Celebration were like massively cheering for him. Something Monahan, but that guy who plays Cal Kestis is dope, and I'm kind of for it. I'm kind of leaning towards like I kind of like that theory, but unless Frank listens to this, I'll never give him credit.
Edit this part out. You celebrated it
exactly. But last thing on the lightsaber fights, 2 parts. One, in the second episode, they're at the shipyard. She stabs one of the droids when she's fighting the Inquisitor, uses him as a body shield, and starts attacking the Inquisitor with her other lightsaber. That part was so sick. And then spins out of it and cuts the droid in half. That was dope. And then the Inquisitor turns on his rotating lightsaber, throws it at her. It doesn't come back. And he jumps on the ship. And in the smoke, Ahsoka runs out. And I'm like, that lightsaber's coming back. It's coming back. Yeah. Then she just like leans to the side a little bit.
Like a fucking boss.
Yeah, and the lightsaber goes past her. Oh my God, that was so sick.
Didn't break eye contact.
Yep.
Yeah.
I was like, this is, I know, that's what I was like, this is so cool. Like, yeah, oh man. I was so excited seeing, like, yeah, it was weird. I was waiting for something weird to happen in the show where I'm like, this is why it sucks. Like, we've been seeing, like, I guess like the Boba Fett and all that stuff. I don't know. There's a part of me that thought maybe
I forgot about
something
Boba Fett.
in it.
I didn't even loop that in the mix because
sadly.
I forgot about that show.
Yeah, we could drop it. We don't need to talk about it. But yeah, exactly. But yeah, there was just so many parts. I was like super pumped. Like, and a lot of the choreography was great. Like all the lightsaber stuff. I'm looking. I'm like, oh, this is cool. It's a cool fight scene. Even when Sabine was fighting
Shinhati.
Ivana, or what's her name? Or Shinhati. Shinhati. That was cool because then she's like, I got my lightsaber. Give me the map. And then she brings out her red one. You can see her face like, fuck. Like, I gotta fight. And then it was a cool fight. And I'm glad she only got stabbed and not cut in half.
Right, right.
But yeah, that was cool.
Qui-Gon got stabbed and he died.
Wait, who did?
Qui-Gon?
Yeah, but medicine got better, I think.
Oh, yeah, probably.
Yeah. Technology advanced a ton.
Yeah.
I don't know. She makes sense why she wears the Mandalorian armor in the next episode, like right away. Yeah. Like, that shit ain't happening again.
I don't get the rotating lightsaber. I just feel like that's so gimmicky.
You never liked it, even in
it's
in
intimidating.
Rebel? Yeah,
but like, I don't know. I feel like the Inquisitors need to have the rotation to be intimidating because they don't necessarily have the availability as real Jedi and or real Sith people. So yes, but
play Fallen Order, play Survivor. That will change your thoughts on it.
I know. I've played Fallen Order, and
did you beat Fallen Order?
No, because of rotating lightsaber.
No, it's badass. You didn't get to the last fight. It's so sick. It's so cool.
More dumb. No.
It's only dumb when they try to use it to fly away. But other than that, badass.
Only Gambit can do that, okay?
Yeah. Which doesn't make... Don't get me started on that.
Yeah,
all right.
Shit.
Yeah, so everybody else, let us know what you think about Ahsoka in the first couple of episodes. Drop us a review, comment, and we'll make sure to shout it out on the episode. I'm going to be in surgery again coming up here very shortly, so I'm probably not going to be in the podcast for at least the next month. Drake and Scott will be taking over, and you'll be in good hands with that. And then we're still thinking about and pray for and trying to help all the people on Maui. Just because the news isn't reporting it as much doesn't mean it's over. A lot of people are still trying to figure out how to go on with life since it was uprooted, or family members that have passed away, or businesses lost, or homes that were lost. All of that is still super sad. So if you can help support in any way, we'll make sure to add those foundations in the comments, or follow us on social media. We have those constantly being posted as well. And that's kind of it for this week. Scott, if you want, or if you can, and you should, and do
it,
give us the final words.
Thanks for tuning in, and thanks for sticking it with us.
Nailed it.
The Joystick Show.